We're back on the record with trial matter Commonwealth versus John McCullough, docket number 1087 of 2020. And I believe Attorney Curran and Mr. McCullough are discussing one thing.
Okay.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Your Honor, for the record, Mr. McCullough and Attorney Curran are now present.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon again, everybody. All right, ready for the jurors? So I'm going to have to move that so I can instruct the jurors. Say again?
The Commonwealth is telling me that now that they have photos that they hadn't provided before. So I wanted to go over the photos with my client to see what objection he had to the various photos. So that's what's stalling us at this point. Why I'm not looking up.
Where are the photos from?
Thank you, Your Honor. So in reviewing my full file this morning, I realized that we did not have photographs. The mental photos were taken during our impanelment. They were provided to us by the sergeant who took the photographs. I did show them to my sister. I understand it's extremely last minute. So I just wanted to give her an opportunity to go over them, see if she had an objection to them being entered. It is the first time she's seeing them, as well as myself.
Okay. Sorry, officer. Yeah, I mean, regarding my own self. Awesome, we'll bring the jurors in. Can you have juror who's in the last seat push over one so they're all, I don't need to leave, in other words, I don't need to leave the space. No, because there's only 7 jurors, so they should all just all sit together.
Okay.
All right, you know what I mean when you see it.
Okay.
Okay. Ready for the jurors, Attorney Curran?
Yes.
All right. Okay, all set? Okay, thank you, officer. Ready for the jurors. Officer, do you mind waiting in the hallway till we call you for testimony, please? Thank you. Okay, thank you, officer. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I trust that there's nothing we need to discuss regarding my respectfully given judicial orders. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue with this matter, and we remain on schedule. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, please hearken to the complaint. It is alleged that on April 25th, 2020, Mr. John McCullough was charged with the following offenses: disorderly conduct, assault and battery on a police officer, and resisting arrest. To these complaints and these charges, Mr. McCullough pleads not guilty and places himself for trial upon the country, which country you are. You have taken the oath to try the issue. If he is guilty, you shall say so. And if he is not guilty, you shall say so and no more. Member of the jury, please hearken to the evidence.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make some preliminary legal instructions to you, and I will thank you in advance for continuing to give me your attention, okay? This is a trial of a criminal case, as you already know. The defendant is charged in a complaint, as you just heard. You should clearly understand that the piece of paper called the complaint is not itself any evidence of guilt. It is merely a formal manner of accusing a person of a crime in order to bring him or her to trial. You must not draw any inference of guilt from this complaint or the fact that the defendant has been formally charged. In any criminal case, the defendant is presumed to be innocent unless he or she is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The law requires the prosecutor, whom we refer to in court terminology as the Commonwealth or the government, to prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The law does not require the defendant to prove his innocence or to produce any evidence. At the end of the trial, you must find the defendant not guilty unless the Commonwealth has proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant has committed the offenses that he is charged with. The trial will proceed in the following order. First, attorneys for the Commonwealth and the defendant will have an opportunity to present opening statements. After the assistant district attorney makes her opening statement for the prosecution, the defense attorney may choose to make an opening statement immediately, or may postpone doing so until later, or may even decide not to do so at all, since the burden of proof is on the Commonwealth. The opening statements of counsel are not evidence. They are somewhat like roadmaps from the attorneys to explain to you what they expect will lie ahead. We have opening statements to assist you to understand what the evidence is expected to be. Next, the prosecution will introduce evidence in support of the charges in the complaint. After that, the defendant may present evidence in his behalf if he wishes to do so, but he is not obliged to do so. Remember, the burden of proof is always on the Commonwealth to prove that the defendant is guilty. The law does not require any defendant to prove his or her innocence or to produce any evidence at all. After all the evidence, each side will have an opportunity to offer you arguments about what conclusions you might draw from the evidence. I again remind you the attorney's closing arguments, both attorneys' closing arguments, like their opening statements, are not evidence. We have closing arguments to assist you to understand the evidence and what each party suggests that the evidence means. Let me speak to you briefly about your role as a jury and mine as the judge in this case. My responsibility is to see that the case is tried in a way that is orderly, fair, and efficient. It is also my function to decide any questions of law that come up during the trial and to instruct you about the law that applies in this case. It is your duty to accept the law as I stated to you. Your function as the jury is to determine the facts. You are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts. You alone determine what evidence to believe, how important any evidence is that you do believe, and what conclusions all the believable evidence leads you to. You will have to consider and weigh the testimony of all the witnesses who appear before you, and you alone will determine to believe any witness and to the extent to which you believe any witness. It is part of your responsibility to resolve any conflicts in testimony that may arise during the course of the trial to determine what the truth is. Ultimately, you must determine whether or not the Commonwealth has proved the charges beyond a reasonable doubt. Our system of justice depends on judges like me and jurors like you being able and willing to make careful and fair decisions. All people deserve fair and equal treatment in our system of justice, regardless of their race, national origin, religion, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, education, income level, or any other personal characteristic. You have agreed to be fair. I am sure that you want to be fair, but that is not always easy. One difficulty comes from our own built-in expectations and assumptions. They exist even if we are not aware of them, and even if we believe we do not have them. Some of you may have heard this called implicit bias, and this is what I'm referring to. Please consider these useful strategies going forward. First, slow down. Do not rush to any decisions. Hasty decisions are the most likely to reflect stereotypes or hidden biases. Second, keep an open mind. Avoid drawing conclusions until the end of the case when you and your fellow jurors deliberate. Remember that when you deliberate, you will have all the evidence and all the time you need to make a careful decision. So there's no need to start making up your mind before then. Third, you should listen closely to all the witnesses. That is the best way to ensure that you decide this case based on the evidence and the law, instead of upon unsupported assumptions. Fourth, as you listen to testimony about the people involved in this case, consider them as individuals rather than as members of a particular group. Finally, ask yourselves, would I view the evidence differently if the people were from different groups, such as different racial, ethnic, or gender identity groups? At the end of the case, I will remind you of these strategies and ask you to focus on the evidence instead of on any unsupported assumptions you may have. All we ask is that you, individually and as a group, do your best to resolve this case based upon the evidence and law without sympathy, bias, or prejudice, to the best of your ability as human beings. As I mentioned to you this morning or this afternoon before lunch, discussion is prohibited. Until this case is submitted to you after my final instructions, you must not discuss it with anyone, not even with your fellow jurors. Discussion can lead to conclusions being drawn or positions being taken prematurely. Fairness requires you to keep an open mind about everything until your deliberations. You may only consider evidence presented to you in the courtroom. You may not conduct any investigation on your own, nor may you engage in any research on the law that might apply in this case. You have been chosen precisely because you are impartial. You may not use outside electronic devices such as cell phones or computers or the internet, social media, news reports, maps, legal documentations, or dictionaries to learn things outside of what is presented here. You may not discuss this case with anyone, not even with your fellow jurors. You must not talk to anyone about this case in person, by text, cell phone, internet, email, or social media. This includes family and friends. As I mentioned, of course, you may tell anyone who's interested that you are serving on a jury in the Dorchester Division of the Boston Municipal Court, that you expect that you'll have to return tomorrow, and that tomorrow you'll likely be done at latest at 4:30. If during the trial a lawyer makes an objection, I will rule on it. It is the lawyer's responsibility to make appropriate objections, and you should not look negatively on any lawyer for doing so. If I overrule an objection, you may consider the answer. If I sustain an objection, you may not consider the answer in any way whatsoever. You are not to concern yourself with what punishment the defendant might receive if he is convicted. The duty of imposing sentence in the event of conviction rests exclusively with me as the judge, and that issue should not influence your deliberations in any way. You should weigh the evidence in this case and determine the guilt or innocence of the defendant based solely upon the evidence, without any consideration of the matter of punishment. Members of the jury, try this case according to the oath which you have all taken as jurors, in which you promised that you would well and truly try the issue between the Commonwealth and the defendant, according to the evidence. If you follow that oath and try the issues without prejudice or bias or sympathy, you will arrive at a true and just verdict. Thank you very much. This time I'm going to offer an opportunity for the attorneys to make opening statements, as I mentioned. Commonwealth, would you like to address the jurors at this time?
Thank you.
Okay.
On April 25th of 2020, Officer Scott Roby of the Boston Police Department, who's been an officer for 28 years with the department, was on routine patrol in the area of Blue Hill Avenue in Boston. And on that day, approximately 12:20 in the morning, around midnight, Officer Roby conducted a traffic stop. And it was a routine traffic stop. It was a woman who had her driver's permit. She was in the front seat, and she had a backseat passenger with no one in the passenger side. So Officer Roby pulled her over, had the backseat passenger so that she could lawfully be operating her motor vehicle. It was a routine traffic stop. Until the defendant came over around the motor vehicle with a camera. And that's when this traditional motor vehicle stop turned into something different. Members of the jury, at this point, after Officer Roby had given that this woman her license and registration and allowed her to leave, the defendant came over in front of the motor vehicle. Officer Roby noticed this and asked him, please step back on the sidewalk. All while he had a camera out and was filming the incident, the police interaction. And it's at this point where the individual, the defendant, he initially does step back on the sidewalk. He listens, he complies, and listens to the officer. Subsequently, as Officer Roby is attempting to go back to his vehicle, which he does, goes back to his vehicle, and as the woman who was pulled over attempted to leave, the defendant walked in front of her vehicle again around to the driver's side and began to question her. And at this point, members of the jury, Officer Roby gets back out of his cruiser, asking the defendant to please get on the sidewalk, let this woman leave. And at this point, the defendant is not cooperative. He's combative with the officers and essentially doesn't get back on the sidewalk. And in fact, comes back towards the officer. And lucky for you, members of the jury, this is an incident that is caught on body camera, so you'll be able to see firsthand this incident play out. But after he comes back to the officer, there's a brief struggle that does ensue. It's a struggle where the defendant is seen yelling, where the officer is telling him to stop resisting arrest, where the officer at that point is attempting to arrest him based on his behavior. And I alluded to, there is body camera. Again, you'll be able to see firsthand exactly what happened in this stop. Members of the jury, there's also the defendant's video. Lucky for you, we also have the second form of video, and it's the video that the defendant filmed on the date of the incident from his perspective, from his camera angle, approaching the motor vehicle, coming around, trying to talk to the driver, going back onto the sidewalk, proceeding back in front of the driver. And again, you'll be able to see what happened firsthand. And I submit to you, members of the jury, that after you hear Officer Roby's testimony, and after you see these two videos, there will be enough to support a conviction for the three charges that the defendant is here for today. Those being assault matter of police officer, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. And at the close of all the evidence and the presentation of the witnesses, I am asked that you find the defendant guilty of these crimes. Thank you.
Okay, Attorney Cohen, would you like to make an opening at this time?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on behalf of Mr. McCullough, thank you for being here today. As the court told you, this is a criminal case. Mr. McCullough is three constitutional principles which the court has mentioned, and will go into detail on the closing instructions. But I'll just touch on when we have a criminal trial, there's three major constitutional principles that apply. Mr. McCullough sits there and is presumed to be innocent, and remains innocent throughout this trial until you, the jury, determine whether he is guilty or not guilty. That stays the same the entire trial. The second principle is the burden of proof. Mr. McCullough doesn't have to prove anything. It is all on the Commonwealth's hands to prove to you that the crime is actually committed. And the third principle is the principle of the burden of proof, which is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, to a moral certainty that a crime occurred here, and that Mr. McCullough is responsible for that crime. But I think you just in the opening statement here today by the prosecutor, what was the crime? What was the crime? Mr. McCullough is on the sidewalk on April 25th, exercising his right to free speech. He's videotaping an officer doing his public duty. It's not a crime. It's protected by the First Amendment. It's a little hobby Mr. McCullough has that he picked up, and he puts his videos out on YouTube. I'm not sure if he makes some money on them on the side, but he goes around during the summer or spring of April 2020. We all know what was going on in April 2020 in the city. And he takes it upon himself to say, I'm going to watch police officers conducting their job. So he's on the sidewalk, and there's a stop of a motor vehicle. And because everybody has a cell phone these days, and police are now using body cameras, everybody has a video. Officer Scott Roby pulls up, takes a motor vehicle to stop, and during the course of that, Mr. McCullough walks up. He starts showing the police video. He's watching it. When the officer is through and he's about to leave, Mr. McCullough says, "Y'all done here, officer? Y'all done?" No response. So he's going to talk to him in the car, person in the car. Is she treated okay? How it went? That doesn't go down well for the officer. So the officer starts yelling at him to get back on the sidewalk. I don't think he'll get one please in the video. And then all of a sudden, Mr. McCullough's arrested. That's it. He's done. He's tired. He's not going to put up with it. And in the course of the arrest, Officer Roby claims that Mr. McCullough resisted him and that he assaulted and battered him. You'll have an opportunity to see these videos. The crime of resisting arrest, the legal elements to that, when the judge gets it to you, you'll hear them. And it's not resisting. There's legal elements. You have to use force. You have to cause a tumultuous situation. You have to intend to touch the officer for an assault and battery. You have to intend that touching to cause bodily harm, some kind of bodily harm to the officer. And all of these charges, the disorderly charge, has to have good faith on the officer that he's making an arrest in good faith. And I think when you see the video, you'll see exactly what happened. There's 3 people in video there. Officer Rose with a body on camera has a partner, somebody to watch what's going on. He has a body on camera, and this McCullough has his video. So you'll see all 3, and I suggest you use the fact find list. It's your final decision that you sort through what was put in front of you today. You'll come to the decision that it's insufficient evidence that the Commonwealth hasn't proved their verdict, and you'll come back with 3 days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Commonwealth, call your witness, please.
Thank you. Commonwealth calls Officer Scott Roby to the stand.
Officer Scott Roby, second session. Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give today will cause now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good afternoon, sir. Have a seat right in that chair and move yourself up forward so that everyone in the room can hear you through the microphone. You can actually move the microphone if that's more helpful. Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name, spell your last name for the record?
Scott Roby, R-O-B-Y.
And where are you currently employed?
I'm a Boston police officer.
And how long have you been employed at the Boston Police Department?
28 years.
And during your time at the Boston Police Department, where have you been assigned?
I was assigned to District C11 for 8 years, which is in Dorchester, Fields Corner area. I was in District B3, which covers Dorchester, Mattapan, for about 9 years. And I was in the gang unit for 2.5 years, as well as District 5 and District 14.
And in April of 2020, what unit were you assigned to?
I was assigned to District B3 last half from 11:45 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
Okay. And again, what area of the city does that cover?
Mattapan and parts of Dorchester.
Okay. And in order to become an officer with the Boston Police Department, did you have to undergo any training?
Yes.
And what was that?
6 months in the Boston Police Academy.
And could you just briefly describe that training for the jury?
Basically, it was physical fitness, academics, criminal law, con law, motor vehicle law, as well as drug identifications and weapons and training, as well as uses of force.
You hinted at being trained in motor vehicle law. Could you just describe what type of training you received in the academy and after as it relates to motor vehicle stops?
Basically, we were trained well-conducted motor vehicle stops for high priority violations, red lights, and stop signs, as well as speeding. That to have a cover officer if available. But during that time of our training, we basically were one-man cars as well as two-man cars for that purpose.
And what are you trained to do when you stop a motor vehicle?
To assess the driver's information for motor vehicle violation, whether or verbal violations.
And what are you trained to do, if anything, when additional parties arrive on the scene?
To be aware and to keep them back from the motor vehicle, as to not put them in danger, as well as put the people that are inside the vehicle as well as the officers in danger.
And March or April 2020, what was kind of the state of the world at that point, if you recall?
It was during the pandemic for the coronavirus.
Okay. And during the pandemic, what additional policies or procedures did the Boston Police Department implement, if you can recall?
Basically, on April 6th, there was a curfew put into effect for the whole city as well as the state by emergency management and the governor for a 9 p.m. curfew until 6 a.m. To limit contact between the public and other individuals in the public, to try to limit the contact.
And during that time, how many motor vehicle stops were you making?
Not very many.
Okay. And why was that?
Just to limit the contact with motorists and people of the public.
Okay. And why was it important to implement this procedure?
If he knows the answer to that, you can answer that.
Basically to stop the spread of the virus.
Okay. And on April 25th, 2020, were you working?
Yes, I was.
And what shift were you working?
I was working 11:45 p.m. till 7:30 a.m.
And that was at B3?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And the area that covers Mattapan and Dorchester?
Yes.
Okay. And on that date, do you recall if you were with a partner or if you were alone?
I was by myself.
Okay. And what kind of cruiser, if any, were you in?
I was in a marked Boston Police Cruiser, Ford Explorer.
And could you just describe that, what that vehicle looks like?
It's a four-door SUV, white with blue lettering on the side that says Boston Police, as well as lights on top of the roof and around the sides.
Okay. And what were your responsibilities during that shift on that date, if you recall?
Actually, I worked at double that day. I believe I worked from 4 p.m. to 11:45, and I was going back out to go get some information for a report that I had from earlier of a sudden death.
And around 12:20, just after midnight, do you recall making the motor vehicle stop?
Yes.
And why did you make that stop?
The vehicle was in the right lane to turn right and turn left, and went back into the middle oncoming lane and into the traffic and almost struck another vehicle.
And what did you do as a result after seeing that?
I proceeded to activate my lights and I pulled the vehicle over at Ansel and Blue Ave.
And how many people, if you can recall, were inside that motor vehicle?
I believe there was 3.
And what was the demeanor, if you can recall, of those 3 individuals inside the motor vehicle?
They were very cooperative. They gave me a learner's permit, and a operator that was in the back seat gave me her driver's license.
And the learner's permit was from the driver?
Yes.
And what happened next, if anything?
I explained to them that the female wouldn't be able to operate after 1 a.m. That on the learner's permit that she would have to, and that the operator or the person with the driver's license would have to switch places and get into the front seat because she had to be beside the occupant with the learner's permit.
And what happened next?
They proceeded to switch, and as I went back to the cruiser to run their information and to write a citation, I believe I ran the driver's information as well as the person who was in the back seat that had the driver's license, and then I proceeded back to the car after writing a warning to them for the lane change.
And what happened after that?
As I was walking back to my cruiser, the defendant walked up to them and was recording them, stepped off the sidewalk, went in front of their vehicle, stopped them as they were getting ready to turn out into traffic.
Okay, so you stated an individual, you observed them walking in front of the motor vehicle. What exactly did that person look like?
He had on I believe a gray ski type jacket, as well as he had a cell phone with an extended carrier in his arm.
And do you see that individual in court today?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point them out, identifying them with an article of clothing?
Yes, he's seated right there. His name is, he has on a gray, white, and blue checkered shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
Thank you. So you stated that you saw the defendant. Where exactly did he come from?
I'm not sure where he came from. I believe from the side of the road somewhere.
And when you first saw him, where exactly was he in relation to the motor vehicle you just stopped?
He was beside the motor vehicle on the sidewalk to the right of the motor vehicle.
Do you recall how close?
No, I don't recall.
Okay. And why were you drawn to him?
Just because he walked up and he had something in his hands while I was conducting a traffic stop.
And what happened next?
As I walked back to my vehicle after giving them the citation and explaining to them what the curfew was for her learner's permit, Mr. McCullough walked out into the street in front of the vehicle with his video camera and started videotaping them and asking them questions.
And at this point, what was the operator attempting to do, if you recall?
She had her turn signal on to turn back into the lane because we were taking up one lane of traffic and he was taking up the second lane of traffic.
And at that point, was your interaction with her done?
Yes.
Okay. And was she able to leave at that point?
Yes.
And was she able to physically move her car at that point? I guess you should say.
No, she waited until I got out of the vehicle and told Mr. McCullough to get back on the sidewalk.
Okay. And did he initially comply, if you can recall?
No, he did not.
Okay. And what was his demeanor during this interaction?
He was confrontational with me and kept talking to the occupants of the motor vehicle as they were trying to turn out into traffic.
And then what happened?
I walked towards him and told him to get back on the sidewalk, or he was going to get out of the lane of traffic as he was obstructing the traffic. And he moved over to the front of the motor vehicle and then off to the right as the vehicle pulled away.
And after he moved off to the right, where exactly did he go to?
At that point, he walked up behind me as I was walking back to the cruiser and kept recording and coming up to the front of my police cruiser.
And how close was he to the operator of the motor vehicle during that first interaction with her, if you recall?
Probably about a foot away from her window, driver's side window.
And why was that concerning to you?
Just because of the pandemic, and it was 12:22 in the evening. So there was concern about the coronavirus at that point with the curfew in effect.
Okay. And you stated that he then also came up to you. How close did he get to you, if you recall?
He was probably about maybe 3-4 feet behind me.
Okay. And what did you do next?
I told him to go back up onto the sidewalk that I already had told him before to stay on the sidewalk and to step away. And he refused until I turned around and started walking towards him. That's when he started backing up and backed his way up onto the sidewalk as I told him that he was going to be placed under arrest.
And prior to him backing up, what was his demeanor like at that point?
He was just yelling something about my badge number and my name and my badge number, and that I'm required to give it to him. And I kept telling him that to put his hands behind his back and that he was going to be placed under arrest. And then he said, "What did I do? What did I do?" And I told him he was going to be placed under arrest for disorderly conduct, at which time he pulled away from me and scratched my left finger on my hand.
And so you stated that after he came after, and my apologies, just trying to break it down a little. After he came after you, you then approached him to effectuate an arrest for disorderly conduct, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and where exactly did that occur?
Right in front of my police cruiser.
Okay, and you stated that he scratched you, correct?
Yes.
Where exactly was that?
My left finger.
And do you recall what that injury looked like?
It was just a small cut, I believe, from his fingernail on my left finger.
Your Honor, would they approach sidebar?
Sidebar, yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Either all of them in their name or none of them can come in. I think we want two to come in, but it's my position. If two women are coming in, they all should be able to come in. I understand that they just spoken to you. I have no problem not introducing them, but if I'm not introducing them, I would just ask them none of them be allowed in.
Well, I think it's an overwhelming amount of money.
How many are there? How many are you trying to get in?
There's two of the couple. There's one in his eye that shows,
He has the autistic.
yeah, well, that shows. One guy has this very discharged. He has red eye. It's not called a tragedy, just something that,
How many photos?
approximately 5 or 6.
She has photos of the phone of Mr. McCullough. We'll just give them back to him. And let's talk just if she wants to introduce that.
Can I be introduced to that? Where you can introduce
Let's talk to the corner on sidebar, okay, so I can find out what's happening. We're still not clear. Can you look at the 6 photographs?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you know the 6 that she's looking at?
No. I thought at first it was just the cut and maybe the eye. But I don't have any objection to the dot on his finger. If you want to introduce, I want the phone anyway. brother already have yours.
We can offer that photograph. Do you have a photograph now? Do you have the photograph?
I don't have any of them.
You don't have the photograph at the table? Alright, so on cross-examination, you can move to offer the photograph. It's evidence. And you can object to that photograph. Alright. So it sounds like all photographs are coming in. Alright?
Well, there's a lot of photographs.
She said 6.
You said all.
Well, I thought we were talking about 6.
Out of the group, if you want to introduce my 2 kids. And I, 2 kids and I, a photo of him. And it's all.
That's
My
6.
time.
Okay, next question. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I feel obligated to tell you that this heat is crushing to me personally, and I've tried to do what I could to get facilities to help us out. It just didn't work. I think because the changing of the seasons, they cranked the heat on October 1st, and if there's a 70-degree day on October 1st, we're stuck with it. I needed to say that out loud so you don't think that you each individually think you're crazy. It is 95 degrees in here, so, all right.
All right, officer, my apologies. So you mentioned that you had a cut to your hand, correct?
My left finger, yes.
Left finger. Your Honor, if I may approach.
You may.
Officer, I'm placing one photograph in front of you. If you could just take a peek at it and look at me. What is that?
That's my picture of my hand that the sergeant took a picture of.
And what specifically is that photograph of?
My left finger, where the cut is on my ring finger.
Is that a very accurate representation of the cut that you received on April 25th, 2020?
Fairly, yes.
Your Honor, this is my call. Looking to just get it straight.
Okay, you have 2?
I do. I have a second.
All right.
I'm placing a second photograph in front of you. If you could just look at that.
Yes.
What do you recognize that to be?
The same photo, different photograph, but in a different angle of the same cut on my left ring finger.
From the injuries that you sustained on April 25th, 2020.
Yes.
Okay. Is that a very accurate representation of the injury?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move to make this as exhibit 1.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
All right. Exhibits 4 and 5, right, Madam Clerk?
3 and 4, Judge.
Oh, okay.
Exhibits 3 and 4.
And if I can publish those to the jury.
Okay. Thank you, officer, for helping us out with that, Officer Pollard.
Officer, you stated that you received an injury to your hand or to your finger. What force was used, if you could feel?
What's the objection? Can you rephrase the question?
What amount
Objection
of force
sustained.
was used for you to sustain that injury?
Same objection.
Rephrase that question. That's sustained.
How much force did you feel on your hand when you sustained that injury?
Probably about maybe like 5 pounds of pressure from his fingernail pressing into my finger.
And did you receive any other injuries as a result of this arrest?
I also had OC spray that was in my hand and went off to the side. I had it in my left eye.
And when did the OC spray get discharged?
As Mr. McCullough was pulling away from me while I was trying to place the handcuffs on him.
And where specifically was that OC spray?
It was in my left hand.
And why was it in your hand?
Because he was resisting and he kept backing up and pulling away and trying to fight me, not wanting to be placed under arrest.
And did you discharge that spray?
I believe it discharged to the left of me spontaneously when he grabbed my finger and my hand. He was trying to grab his cell phone.
And so where did the OC spray get discharged to?
I believe the left side of myself, my jacket, and the left side of his sleeve.
Okay. And what injuries did you specifically receive from that OC spray being discharged?
Just redness around my eye from when I moved my hand up to grab his hand and my jacket rubbed up against my face.
Okay.
Officer, please get another photograph of you. You can just look at it and you can let me know. You recognize that?
Yes.
What is that photograph of?
That was the picture from that night that Sergeant Brooks took of the irritation around my left eye.
And where was the photograph taken?
At District B3.
And is that all photographs taken?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a fairly accurate representation of what your eye looked after this incident occurred?
Yes.
I just kind of looking at this as almost exhibit 5.
Any objection?
No.
Okay.
Exhibit 5.
Notice as published as the jury.
Thank you, Officer P. Me too.
Now, officer, after that OC spray was discharged, what happened?
I was assisted by, I believe, Officer Wood, who was also present during a traffic stop and incident with Mr. McCullough as he came back to where we were located, and when I was placing him under arrest and to get him under control and to place him into handcuffs.
And how specifically did he assist in the arrest?
Just by gaining control of one of his arms.
Okay. And what happened next, if you recall?
He was brought over to the cruiser to be placed into the back of the cruiser, and he refused to get in. He was pushing back and was yelling and wanted his phone back. I went and picked up his phone off the ground and was bringing it back. And as Officer Wood was getting him into the back of the cruiser, he grabbed the cell phone out of my hand and put it behind him inside the cruiser and sat on it.
And what was his demeanor like during this transport into the cruiser?
He was very confrontational, very, very vocal about swearing at us and yelling at us about what had transpired, that why he was being placed under arrest. And
you stated that he wanted his phone back. At what point was his phone taken, or where did his phone go?
No, it was on the ground right beside, right where he was placed into handcuffs.
And you recall how it got there?
I don't. I remember it was on his little, he had like a device that holds the phone, and I believe that fell, and it was on that device.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may continue to approach this witness.
Thank you. I think another photograph in front of the officer. You can just review that and we'll have it when you're done. What is that photograph of?
I believe Mr. McCullough's cell phone.
And do you recall seeing that cell phone on April 25th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay, is that a fair and accurate representation of what it looked like all of the incident?
I'm sure it is. They took a picture of it.
And did you have an opportunity to see this phone prior to the arrest or incident occurring?
No, I did not.
That is fair and accurate representation of after.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to agenda as Commonwealth Exhibit 6.
Any objection? Okay. Exhibit number 6, Madam Clerk.
Exhibit
Thank you.
6. Our staff is published to the jury. So, officer, I just want to kind of jump back a little bit to when you arrested Mr. McCullough. And what did you do in order to effectuate the arrest?
Excuse me?
So you stated you arrested Mr. McCullough, correct?
Yes.
In front of your cruiser.
It was towards the sidewalk. He had left in front of my cruiser and was backing away when I told him he was going to be placed under arrest.
And why was he placed under arrest at that point?
For disorderly conduct, he was being in the street after I told him several times, as well as the curfew violation. It was a part of the disorderly conduct.
And how did he react to you attempting to effectuate that arrest?
Like I said, he was backing away, pulling his hands away from me, and trying to pull back and get on the sidewalk.
Okay, and what happened after that?
He was, I believe, placed under arrest by myself and Officer Woods.
And at what point did he make contact grabbing at you?
When he first pulled away, when he first grabbed my hand and was pulling away from me.
Okay. On that evening, were you wearing a body camera?
Yes, I was.
And what is body camera?
It's the department's issued Axon body camera that police officers wear to record incidents of this nature and as others' interactions with the public.
And why do you wear body camera?
It's for accountability and transparency.
And where specifically do you wear it?
It's usually on the front of my vest, right in front.
And what does that video capture?
It usually captures pretty much from the head up, and if depending on how far away we were during that evening, we were supposed to be remaining 6 feet from everybody because of the virus and because of the pandemic. But I had to effect the arrest, so I would have had to be closer to him.
And so you were wearing body camera on April 25th, 2020?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, at this point, may I approach the meeting clerk?
Okay.
Madam Clerk, Exhibit 1.
Well, we need to put it for the jurors to view it, okay? It doesn't matter about me. And for Mr. McCullough to be able to see it. He can always move to the table over there if he needs to with Attorney Carter. Yes. Well, how about if how about Officer Roby stands right where Mr. Pollard is? You can direct him from, there you go.
I'm now playing Exhibit 1 from the beginning. And just stopping at the 7-second mark. Officer, there's no audio playing. Why is there no audio playing?
The first 30 seconds of the camera being activated.
Okay. And, it's just a serial bill. But do you recognize this video?
Yes.
And, what is shown in this video at this point right now?
When I was in that cruiser, just a little double check all my account prior to that.
And is the body camera you were wearing when you go from the 2020?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
It has up in the top corner of my excellent body camera.
Resuming play at 7 seconds. Sound my apologies.
I think there's a quarter too.
Resuming like 37 seconds. Stop at 1 minute and 9 seconds. Officer, what street?
Little,
And how do you recognize the street?
by the provided.
And this is a fair representation of the street you pulled over that rotary on.
I'm just going to, for the record, ask whoever's speaking just to keep your voice up because neither of you are at microphones any longer since you're in front of the jurors. So just for the preservation of the record, just speak up. Thank you.
Resuming at 1 minute and 9 seconds.
What's going on with your license? Did you just get your license?
I just gave you
She has the license.
Pausing at 1 minute and 50 seconds. Officer, who was in this video?
One of the operators that were operating the motor vehicle at that particular time.
And how many people were inside that motor vehicle?
I believe 3.
And at what point in the video were we watching?
I believe this is when I was giving her back her license and her permit.
After the stop?
Yes.
Resuming at 1:50.
Guys, gotta switch up. She's subject to arrest right now. Hold on. You can drive, but she has to be in the front seat.
Pausing at 2 minutes, 16 seconds. It appears there's someone else on the other side of the motor vehicle at this point. Who is that?
I can't.
I'll resume, but
You guys need to put your seatbelts on.
are you able to tell now?
I believe it's Officer Wood and I believe John McCullough.
So that was paused at 2 minutes, 28 seconds. So who is in the shot now?
He's actually blocked by the motor vehicle, so I believe Officer Woods is in the shop.
And where's exactly in the shot are they?
On the sidewalk on the passenger side of the motor vehicle.
Okay, resuming 5.
Your license, physical registration. Your license. But when you have a learner's permit, the person that has a license is supposed to be beside, alright? You get permit, it's real good. After 1 year, you understand that you can't drive after 1 year. Okay. What you said was the off lane violation, because you were in the right-hand lane and you go on the left. And that lane is a bike lane. It's not supposed to be driving. See right here? See how they have it marked off?
Yeah, but what I was trying to tell you was I was gonna turn and we changed our minds, so that's why I ended up going in front of you.
I know, but you still can't drive. You can't drive from that lane.
I apologize.
You understand?
I'm a driver.
I understand, and that's why I'm explaining it to you. Okay, listen, they were in $105 for the marked lane. Your speed from 40 and a 25. The whole city is 25 miles an hour. Okay? I gave you a warning for that as well. Alright? You would have been $305. Alright? I gave you a warning.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Pausing at 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Who's in the frame or what do we see?
See John standing towards the front of the motor vehicle, waving and his arm and his camera.
And where specifically are you in relation to the motor vehicle?
I'm in the lane of travel on the driver's side.
And at this point, where physically is he?
He's towards the front passenger side.
Presuming 5.
That would have went on your license. Okay? That would have went on your license for the citation.
Pausing at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Officer, what did we just see?
Just me going back to the cruiser and the defendant walking into the street in front of the motor vehicle.
And why did you get back in your cruiser at this point?
Trying to stop the
Okay. And what were you intending on doing at this point?
proceedings to where I was going from the original stuff.
Okay. Resuming play at 4:14.
Step out of the street. Step out of the street.
Pausing at 4 minutes and 25 seconds. What did we just see?
The defendant in the street in the lane of traffic as a motor vehicle was driving by.
And what did you do?
I stepped back out of the cruiser and told him to step out of the street and to go onto the sidewalk
And why did you tell him to do that?
because it was blocking the vehicle. You can see the turn signals on for it to turn out.
Okay. And where exactly is the motor vehicle you just pulled over at this point?
It was still in the second lane of traffic to the right.
Okay. Resuming play.
Step out of the street. Step out of the street. Step out of the street. You the steering wheel? You the steering? Take the legs. Take the legs. Yes. Chapter 48, section 98, take the legs. Step out of the street.
Stopping at 4 minutes and 43 seconds. What did we just see in that short 10-second clip?
The defendant walking back from the motor vehicle and the motor vehicle pulling off and then walking back towards the front of my cruiser.
And what was he saying?
Asking for my name and badge number and quoting the article section of Mexican.
And where is he at this point?
This is towards the front of my passenger side of the cruiser.
Okay. Resuming play. All right, I'm going to pause here at 5 minutes and 13 seconds. What did we just see in the last 20 seconds?
Me telling him that he was going to be placed under arrest and telling him to put his hands behind his back.
And why was he placed under arrest at that point?
At that point, for the disorderly conduct and for obstructed media as I was conducting my police business.
And where exactly was this arrest effectuated?
Right at Cancel and Little Lab.
Okay. And where on the street was it affected?
On the sidewalk, right next to where my police cruiser was and where he backed it.
And
Back
what would you describe his demeanor like at this point?
he was resistant, he was pulling away from me, and after he had already grabbed my hand and put his fingernail into my hand.
And that was during this arrest?
Yes.
Okay. Resuming play. Stopping at 6 minutes and 4 seconds. So you hear the defendant saying lost his phone. When would you typically give someone items back after an arrest?
Advocate.
Okay. And where at this point was the phone?
He grabbed it out of my hand
And prior to it being in your hand, where was it?
on the ground.
Okay. And who else is in the video, just to clarify with you?
The police officer was.
And I'll just play the rest of the video. The remaining 18 seconds. And we just saw the body camera end. Why did it end here?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And why, if you know, was the defendant screaming?
He had his phone and he was recording all the time. So he started screaming again when he gets back to the station.
Objection.
Yelling back.
What's the objection?
He's not answering the question. He's going back to the station.
All right. Okay, what's the next question?
Next question. What would you describe his demeanor like during this arrest?
He was out of control.
In terms of demeanor?
Speaks for itself.
Overruled.
He was out of control at that point.
And how many arrests have you made?
Hundreds.
And how do those arrests usually go?
Depends.
Objection.
Sustained. Next question.
And what else do you recall happening during this transport?
He was sitting on his phone, cell phone in the back, and was yelling all the way back to the station that he was.
Objection.
Hold on 1 second. Do you need him to stand up anymore? Can Kate resume the seat, or what's happening next?
There is a
I just wanna
second video, so while he's standing, perhaps you can
Okay.
jump to that.
All right.
I'm approaching the media card, second video.
Marked as exhibit number 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Officer, you mentioned earlier the defendant was filming, and we could also see he was filming, correct?
Yes.
And again, what was he filming with?
His cell phone and arm carrier.
And do you know why he was filming?
Yes, he stated that he was filming for YouTube as the resistance.
And what is the resistance?
Objection.
Can I talk to the lawyers at sidebar, please? Officer Paul, this might be a good time to tell the jurors what you tell us all the time. Okay, what's this question?
So he has two channels, which was elicited from counsel's opening, which is having him describe to his knowledge what he knows about the appeal account and recording.
Well, first of all, what's the relevance?
But the video came from his YouTube account, his phone network.
I think that's clear. I mean, I think you're getting into that's that my client was just wanted to investigate where he is.
So the objection is sustained. Okay. Next question. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So let's the lawyer stay right here a second. Well, I'll let you go. I'll let you take the jurors. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a brief afternoon recess, okay? Thank you very much for your attention. Continue to keep in mind, I'll go over here and see everybody. Continue to keep in mind when I ask you earlier about not speaking about the cases to each other or to others while you're on break, okay? Thank you, officer.
All right, jurors, exit the jurors this way, follow me, please.
Still on the record, you want? Is there anything else to talk about?
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I think that's what happens. It turns October 1st, and it just automatically goes to like 80, and then combine that with a 70-degree day. This is I haven't been outside. It's a 70-degree day.
it's a beautiful day. It is. It's probably 72.
Oh man.
Do we need the officer to step out or?
For which?
I'm not sure exactly. I wasn't sure. If he asked them to see me.
What's that? Stone is there.
Ms. McCullough, have you yours come off?
Yes. I'm gonna step off also and go wash my hands.
All right, it's good. Take seats, please, close to session. Council's going to get a client.
Okay, thank you.
John McCullough, second session. John McCullough, second session, please.
Okay, ready for the jurors, officer. Thank you.
All right, it's good. You're good. Jurors and present, y'all take seats, please.
Okay, thank you, officer. Okay, you may inquire, resume questioning.
Thank you, Your Honor. Approaching the media cart with exhibit C.
Okay.
I'll get 2 seconds. Officer, what's in this initial shot?
I believe myself and Officer Wood were conducting the traffic stop.
This is stuff like a traffic stop from April 25th, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You done, officer? Are you done? Was he talking that license to y'all before I pulled up? Not really, right? Yeah, I know this dude, he's an asshole. This was for y'all safety. I pulled up too late. But y'all check me out on YouTube. Boston Artists. Boston Artists, the resistance. I got to truck the track on it. I got to truck the track on it. I got to truck the track. How you know how to do it?
Pausing at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. So, officer, you're asking the defendant to step out of the street. Why?
Because he's in the middle of the street on the driver's side during a traffic stop, blocking the lane of traffic.
And were there other motor vehicles on the road at this point?
Yes.
And was there only one? Do you recall how many?
No, I believe one passes by right as he walks out into the street.
Okay. And so you asked Mr. McCullough to step out of the street, correct?
Yes.
Can you just describe what we saw after you requested that?
He said he wasn't in the street. He wasn't blocking anything.
Resuming by 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
Section, chapter 48, section 98B, name the bags. You are required,
Pausing at 2 minutes, 27 seconds. What did we just say?
Me advising him again to step out of the street as he was towards the passenger side in the front of my cruiser.
And wasn't complying.
He wasn't until I started going towards him.
And what steps did you take at this point?
I told him to put his hands behind his back and told him that he was going to be placed under arrest.
And why was he under arrest?
At that point, for disorderly conduct.
Resuming by Pausing at 2 minutes, 50 seconds. How would you describe this arrest?
Very confrontational.
And how would you describe the defendant's demeanor at this point?
At that point, he was resisting, pulling his hands back and out of control at that point.
And at what point were you scratched by the defendant?
Just prior to me going back towards him, getting him back up onto the sidewalk when he reached down.
And why, when you reached down where?
Towards my left hand when I was trying to get his hand under control and to place him under arrest.
And
Sure, take your time.
resuming.
What's the charge? I get my hand off the ground, please.
Just his phone on the ground and me picking it up.
I think we're all set. Officer can approach. So, officer, subsequently you transported Mr. McCullough, correct?
Yes.
And who booked him?
One of the other officers.
If you recall, if you were present at booking?
I was not.
Okay. So you didn't have any interactions with Mr. McCullough at the station?
Yes, when we first brought him in, he wouldn't go into the station. He was fighting us and yelling that we're trying to kill him, and the EMS people, their bay is right next to ours, and one of the EMS EMTs were outside and was trying to calm him down and asked if he needed any assistance, and he said no.
And why did they ask him if he needed any assistance?
Because he was screaming and yelling that they're trying to kill me.
And at that point, was he still in handcuffs?
Yes.
And what else happened at that point, if you recall?
Overruled.
He kept yelling and he was spitting in both officers' direction as we were at the wagon bay door. At that time, I pulled his hood over his head and told him to stop spitting, and brought him inside to the booking area.
And where exactly was he spitting?
I believe towards the other officer that was on the right, and when he turned around, he was spitting in my direction. That's when I pulled his hood up over his head.
Okay. And how, you said he was fighting. How would you describe that more in detail? What he was actually doing?
He was just pushing himself up against the barrier and the door and holding himself there to try to resist and not go into the Bay Area.
Can we just have one moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
What else, if anything significant, do you recall at the station?
Just that he.
Objection?
Just a wide open question. What do you recall at the station? We're at the point.
Like what happened next?
At the station, I just don't think it's relevant.
Rephrase that question.
What happened next?
Okay, as we got him inside, he dropped to the floor and with all his weight and held himself down on the floor. And as he pulled his phone and then was placing it underneath him.
And where specifically was he when this was happening?
Inside the holding area next to the gates.
And why was that significant to you?
That's sustained in that form.
And what steps did you take next, Benny? What steps did the officer take next, if any?
Myself and then another officer that was in the booking area assisted with getting him up to the booking desk and having the EMTs talk to him to see if he had any injuries or needed to be cleaned out from the OC spray.
And what injuries did you observe on him, if any?
None.
And did EMS treat him?
No, he refused any EMS treatment.
And why was that, do you know?
I don't. It was his decision that he refused to talk to the EMTs.
Okay. What else happened, if anything?
Sergeant Brooks took photographs of him at the booking area, his hands and his arms and his face, as well as my hands, my arms, and my face.
And why were those photographs taken?
For evidence.
Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Any comments like that?
Yes.
And I have no objection or any issues.
Is there anything you put on the meeting? You can't put that in the meeting. Oh, you can't. No, oh yeah, well that's, it never ends well.
So I was gonna ask him, what, keep going, but,
This is, to be honest with you, I have a hard time comporting with any self-control at this point. I mean, this room is making me crazy. So I think we should stop. It's not what I can finish it anyway. So, that's what, I'll tell the jury that we're not gonna finish it anyway. It's time for action tomorrow. Okay. Alright. We'll recess then. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the recess this afternoon. I usually dismiss the jurors at 4:30. I know I sound like I'm complaining, but the temperature in this room is debilitating. So I'm going to presume that you're all not comfortable either. We're not going to finish today. Anyway, I told you ahead of time that it was between 1 to 3 days, and I said more like 1 to 2 days, and here we are, 1 to 2 days. We remain on schedule. So tomorrow will be your last day on this trial. I'm going to also you can be released from the stand knowing that cross-examination is tomorrow, 9 a.m. And once you get by, I'll address the jurors. Thank you. So, I'm going to give you two respectful judicial orders. You know what they are. The first one is to continue not talking about the case. I know it sounds like a broken record, but it is important. Resist whatever temptation. People are going to be wondering about your interesting day. They want to know about the facts. I know it happens. I know it occurs whether it's kids or adults. They're going to be interested in what you've done. Just tell them at the end of this trial, you can say anything you want to tell them. You can tell them about every little fact or detail that you learned. Just have to wait till you come home tomorrow in case after you discharge. So keep that in mind. I know you will. Secondly, I also know you will continue to respect each other's time and the court's time by being here on. Can't go forward unless all 7 of you are ready to go tomorrow morning. We'll have you come in at 9 and get going as soon as everyone's gathered and we are ready to go. Okay. Officer, thank you very much. We're going to take the jurors. All last please. Dismiss for the day.
Jurors is getting along. Okay.
Okay. You're going to square away, the lawyer's going to square away tomorrow's exhibit, video exhibit. We'll proceed with cross-examination. Commonwealth is not going to call any more witnesses tomorrow, correct?
No.
And, Mike, the defendant call any witnesses tomorrow? You're supposed to tell me now, just as a heads up, potentially?
I asked that Officer Woods be here. He was here today and was on call. I think the Commonwealth's gonna accommodate me on that.
Was he summoned?
I'll give him a call. He was
Great,
summoned.
great, thank you. Okay, see you in the morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge, I appreciate that.
Thank you, 88 Grantino.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Court's in recess.